What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast dedicated to self-development, self-improvement, and helping you achieve the goals that you've laid forth in your life. I'm your podcast host, Brandon Davis, and sitting next to me is one of my good buddies, Chase Stenzel. Guys, if you did not listen to last week's episode, if you didn't tune in last Friday, make sure to go give that one a listen before today's. This is going to be part 2 in the series of hearing Chase's journey through the challenge 75 hard. We had lots of great content last week about what it was and kind of Chase's entire framework into that process. And so now we're kind of getting a little bit more into the nitty gritty on how we can take some of these principles Chase learned in the 75 hard and apply them into your lives, whether you take on the challenge or not, and just kind of how we can all better ourselves a little bit more. So guys, with all that being said, let's jump into today's episode. So Chase, we finished last week's episode on the note of a lot of times when we're trying something difficult, we have so many haters. Even our best friends, like our family members, they won't necessarily say, oh, you're stupid for trying this, or they won't necessarily not support you. But you can always feel in the back of your head, like, what is this guy doing?
Is he trying to tempt me to go off what I said I was going to do?
Yeah, like, what is he trying to accomplish? Can he even do that? Probably not. He gives up on everything, We're always going to have haters inside of our lives. And before I let you jump into your experience with people probably not supporting you perfectly, I think everyone has always had a group of people who didn't necessarily believe in them. I remember when I first got started on the podcast, I had plenty of people. I had close friends who were like, so what's your goal? Like, are you trying to do this for like a couple of days or like, and you could just hear it in their tone of voice thinking like, there's no way this will ever amount to anything. There's no way this will continue. And so I guess for the audience, picture this inside of your own life. What times have you, or what experiences have you been through where you could just feel that people, even if they didn't outright say it, they didn't believe in you? Every single one of us has had an experience like that. And so Chase, jumping into yours, I don't know if anyone necessarily said, no, you're not going to be able to accomplish 75 hard, or whether you could just kind of feel that. But what's your experience with people hating on you and not believing in you?
Yeah, and I wouldn't say that I'm like some person that I had like a ton of haters saying that I couldn't do the thing. It was more just like my family and loved ones and maybe friends just going out, or simply as like going out on a date and like telling a girl like, hey, I can't like eat this. Like, and people would just be like, what? Like, why? Like, they just didn't understand. And I think that's where it came from, more was just like not understanding why I'm doing this. Like, what's the reason for it? Like, hey, just cheat. Just cheat one time. It's not going to do anything.
You're fine.
Yeah, you're fine.
Same concept as drugs when you're younger, right?
Yeah.
Just try one time. You're okay.
You're fine. And so, like, when I went home for Christmas, it was my mom's a baker, and so she has a ton of good food at home all the time, going out and stuff like that. So, like, it was my mom would always say to me, like, I just don't understand. Like, I think this is great what you're doing, but like, why are you doing this? Like, it seems like you're fine and stuff like that. And I'm like, Mom, like, this is what I need to do. Like, trust me. And like, I was like, I told her, and my mom was like, she got kind of butthurt by this. I was like, I honestly don't care if you don't believe in me. Like, I don't expect you to. I don't expect anybody to, because I haven't done anything. But like, just trust me. Like, if you want, I know she's my mom. She loves me more than anything. So she's going to be there and like help me in my journey throughout 75 hard and throughout life in general. But I would just say I think most people just don't understand. And I think as I've gone through the program, I've kind of learned like that's a good thing. If everybody understands the decisions that you make and understands your thought process, like not necessarily you're doing something wrong, but like if people don't get you and are like, you're crazy, why are you like, I'm like, oh, thanks. I would just be like, oh, thanks. I appreciate that. As weird as that might sound, but it's kind of like, it's a compliment. It kind of would like fuel me. I'm like, oh, people are crazy. Like, this is cool. I'm gonna walk outside when it's snowing outside and it's like 3 a.m. Oh my gosh, I'm cool right now. And it like literally like
kind of gives you
like
the energy.
Right? I'm like, oh wow, no one else is doing this out here. And like it pretty much just came from a lot of people not understanding. I never really had like anybody like, hey, like you can't do this. It was just like people and friends would joke around about like, hey, just have this, or like,
I think I did that to you a couple
yeah,
times.
like everyone does it and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and like I personally would never care. Like it doesn't bother me because like I was very like strong in my conviction of why I'm doing this, and like at a certain point I was like, I'm not failing. Like it doesn't matter what goes on in these last 75 days, like I'm not failing. And like to give some backstory, like over the past 75 days when I just finished, like I legit went on, I had my mom's birthday, I went home for Christmas, I went on a trip to Vegas, I went on a cruise to Mexico with all you can eat ice cream cones, food, everything like that. I had many times where I went out with friends and I just got something different, or oh no, I have to stick to my plan, I have to do this, I can't go
Make your own food.
Yeah, I have to make my own food. I didn't get my workout done in time, and that's my fault. So I'm going to prioritize my stuff first, and I'm going to go and do this. And it's also like, I would say a lot of people, maybe you've heard, but like a lot of people in 75 Hard, when they look at it from an outsider's perspective, they're like, oh, this isn't attainable. Like, you can't do this forever. But it's like, once you build a belief in yourself, because like belief in yourself and belief in general is not like, it's not like something you could find. It's like you have to earn it every single day. It's like the thing that The Rock's saying is like rent is paid every day, or rent is due every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally kind of look at it as that day. Like you have to win every single day. And if you win as many days, like if you win 5 days out of the week, you won the week. And that's a progress. You're only going forward.
Going back to the rejection part for a second, I know you've read David Goggins' new book.
Yeah.
I'm assuming many of you who listen to the podcast are into that type of thing. So if you haven't, go check out his books. Amazing books. Crazy experiences for sure in that guy's life. But inside of his most recent book, there's a whole section on... His first book was all focused on kind of his journey of becoming who David Goggins is.
Yeah.
His second book is kind of the process, like the mental process behind of everything he is, that he created himself to be, but also that he has to stay that person now. And so one thing that he talks about in the second book is rejection. He talks all about rejection. He has people, everyone knows who he is now. Everyone recognizes his face. So online, he has a million different people spitting at him and saying all this crazy stuff like, oh, I don't think you actually accomplished all this. I don't think you can continue doing it.
Yes.
He has haters on there. He has haters at all the races he runs, on all the podcasts he goes on. And at the end of the day, my favorite thing in the entire book is he says he either writes down the rejections or he goes and he literally records himself saying all the rejections. So if somebody cusses him out, they call him the N-word, anything like that could bother him in his mind, he records himself or he writes it down and then he reads it or he listens to the audio of every piece of crappy information that somebody said if they didn't believe in him. And maybe that's pretty extreme, right? This is David Goggins we're talking about, but how beautiful is it that we don't need to be bothered by those little things?
Yeah.
Like you said, your mom, absolute biggest supporter of you.
Yeah.
She may not quite understand what you're going through in that moment, but does it matter? No. You said, I'm going to accomplish this. I'm going to complete 75 hard. I don't care how crazy I look to the girls I take on dates, to all my homies when we go to the movies and I'm not eating the popcorn or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it for me. And so what kind of drove you to that point where you stopped caring what other people thought and you were just like, no, I'm doing this one for myself?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing we all face, right?
Yeah.
So many of our friends, we're worried about what they think. We're always worried about what others think, people we're just introduced to. You know, it's always about that first impression and you always want to be on your best behavior.
Yeah.
But you're like, nah, man, like I'm doing me.
Yeah.
What's that line from Surf's Up? It's if you guys seen the movie, it's Cody. He goes, let me be me or let me do me or whatever, you know, when everyone's making fun of him for being a penguin that surfs, you know? But he's like, no, let me do my thing. So what's your experience with that?
Yeah, so as you know me, I've known you since high school, and I've always been kind of a person where I just have my own thoughts. I don't care if anybody else thinks different. I just like think that certain thing. I'm very stubborn, and I just have my ways with things, and I don't care if anybody gets mad at me, but I'll stick to those things. So it's kind of like been in me for a while, but it dramatically got to the point where I was just like, Like, if I care what these people think, a person that I don't know, like, that I'm going to meet one time or go on a date with, or a friend who's like, hey, like, why, like, I'm never going to go anywhere if I constantly am letting, like, those little things bother me. Like, just, like, who cares? Like, I should add that fuel to my fire and be like, hey, this person wants me to do this, or they don't think that I could do this, or they're like this. Like, it was kind of just like, I was like, why care? Like, why am I putting my mental energy into something that, like, it truly doesn't matter? Like, one person that I really like in his podcast and all of his books is Ed Milet, and he talks about, like, process of just, like, if it's not going to affect you, I'm pretty sure you've heard of it, like, it's not going to affect you in 5 years, like, don't spend 5 minutes thinking about it. Like, who cares? Like, it doesn't
Brush
matter.
it off.
Like, things are going to happen in your life that are unexpected, that you don't expect are going to happen, little hiccups, and that's just, you just have to keep going through them full steam ahead. You can either hide in your excuses and stuff like that to cover, oh no, I had this, but, like, deep down, if you keep those promises to yourself, which I think is the most important thing, you will literally be the most confident person ever. Because I can tell you, like, that was my biggest thing that I probably, like, taken away from 75 Hard, is just, like, keeping those little promises to yourself, like, hey, I'm going to do this no matter what anybody says. Like, I said I'm going to do this, so I'm going to do it. And, like, there would be some nights where I got back from a comedy show and I had to drive to Colorado and back, and I got home at 2 a.m. and I was like, oh crap, I still haven't done my cardio. But it wasn't like, there wasn't a thought in my mind where I was like, oh, I'm not going to do it. It was just like, oh, I have to do it.
I haven't done it yet.
I haven't done it yet, but, like, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And, like, when that happened that one night, I think that was day, like, I remember it to be exact. It's like 42 or 43. And I was instantly like, wow, like, that's crazy. I would never, like, in the past, I would make an excuse and be like, hey, dude, like, it's 2 a.m, go to bed. Like, it's not healthy for you to not get sleep. But I was like, I don't care if it's not healthy. Like, I said I was going to do this. I need to do it.
In your case, it was, you were going to a comedy show, you know, it's, like, not something that you necessarily do every day.
Yeah.
But how many times do we make excuses inside of our lives and you blame it on that moment specifically? So, for instance, say your alarm goes off at 7 a.m. and I'm guilty as charged. Like, I've done this a million times. I think we all have. The alarm goes off at 7 a.m. and you hit snooze, and your justification for it is, oh, I ended up going to bed at 3 a.m., so I can't get up at 7. I need sleep. That's better for my health. And sure, maybe it's better for your health, but you're also letting yourself continue in that process of cheating yourself. Because what you didn't realize is you stayed up watching movies till 3 a.m. with your girlfriend or your buddies, or just by yourself. You know, you stayed up playing video games. You did these things beforehand that affected your next day.
Yeah.
And so that's something I feel like, me personally, I'm working on a ton. Like, if I set myself up for success, it makes the journey so much more achievable. Mm-hmm. In your case, you recognized it, and it was 2 a.m. It wasn't, I may or may not do this. No, I'm going to do this. It sucks that I'm doing it right now, but I already promised myself I would.
Yes.
So, same instance. If I say I'm going to wake up at 7 a.m., I'm going to do it. If I chose the night before to go to bed at 3 a.m, that's on me. Maybe it was a fun experience, and I'm not saying you shouldn't live life and have fun. Like, yeah. I feel like a lot of personal development people will always be like, stick to the same routine, and, you know, It's like all this crazy stuff. But no, like, have fun every once in a while. But don't let that fun eat up into everything that you need, other areas that you need to get done.
So. Yeah, and I would 100% going off what he said too. It's like, I just remember this moment, and I was listening to a podcast, and it was like, a lot of people have the misconception with 75 Hard, which is unfortunate, of like, hey, you can't live your life. You can't go out and do these things. Like I said, I went on a cruise. I had so much fun. I did things that normally people would be like, no, I can't do that on 75 Hard. But at that time, I already built the discipline and knowledge that I was like, I'm going to stick with this no matter what. I didn't stress about it 3 days before. I was like, when I got to the moment, I'm going to focus on that day and figure it out. Like, that was one thing that I really learned too, was just like, focusing on that day, even if it was day 74, on day 74, I was not thinking about 75 the next day. I was just like, I have to get my stuff done today, one day at a time, and that's all that matters, no matter what. But the misconception is just like, oh, you can't have fun, you can't go out and do these things with your friends. And it's like, yeah, you can. I think that will make it even more challenging, and you're going to learn from it more if you're only doing 75 Hard and you cancel every single plan with your girlfriend your wife, all your friends, like it's way easier to do those things. But if you don't and you have other obligations that you have to do, you have to prioritize and realize like, okay, I have to make time for this. And like time isn't like you create time, you don't find time. Like if you want to get something done, you have to create it. And just like there was a moment on a podcast I was listening to, and it was with Ed Milet, and his son is like college golfer. He was talking to his son, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, Dad, all the guys are out, like they're drinking and partying right now. We have to wake up early in the morning, so I'm just not going out." And his dad said this one line. He's like, "Hey, I'm proud of you." He's like, "Winning is more fun than fun is fun." And maybe to some people, they're like, "Oh, that's stupid." Like, no, it's not. And to me, when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. Because it's like, for me, having that, like, when you stick to those little promises, like you said, of like waking up early in the morning, no matter what time you fell asleep, that builds belief and confidence in yourself. Even if it's the smallest thing, you're like, wow, I did that. That sucked. I did it. And maybe you'll be tired the rest of the day.
You might be tired. You might get less work done, but you stuck to it.
But you still stuck to it, and that's going to lead to other areas in your life. It's going to lead to every area if you practice that every single day and be that disciple of discipline that you said you were going to be. And I think that's like the most important thing is just like being like creating discipline. You have to create it, and to create that, you have to do things that require discipline.
A lot of these experiences we're talking about right now, I was he came and spoke into one of my classes. Todd Peterson, he's the founder of Vivint. Everyone knows Vivint Smart Homes, you know, the security and then the solar panels and whatnot. And I love his story. He's a very controversial guy. He says some crazy things sometimes, but I absolutely love his story when Vivint wasn't Vivint. You know, it was this tiny little thing. Nobody knew what it was. He goes around, for everyone who doesn't know the story, he goes around to all these different investors. He basically pitches them the idea, the vision of Vivint. He says, all right, we're gonna go install these security cameras, we're gonna have a whole sales force behind it and this customer service department. He kind of details everything about what Vivint will be to all these different investors. And there was 5 investors specifically that he like pitched his heart out to, and they're like, this is the dumbest thing we've ever heard, like this will never be anything, right? And the day Vivint went public on the stock exchange, he wore a shirt with all those 5 dudes on. It was all the 5 guys that basically told him. There's many more who said no, but these were the ones that kind of like stuck out to him and basically was like, pound sand, dude. This idea is never going to be anything. He wore their faces on his shirt. And he didn't do it out of a thing like they joked about it. He's friends with a couple of them now. Yeah. They joked about it, but his entire purpose behind it was like, I knew it was going to work. Not necessarily because it was the best idea ever, but because I was going to work for it. He believed in himself. So the day Vivint went public, he's got his shirt on and stuff, and he's just like the happiest guy on earth. And so I love that story because so many times inside of our lives, we go through these experiences where so many people are going to beat us down, we're going to cheat ourselves. But if we take the example of Todd Peterson, if you can just put yourself out there and know it's going to work because you're betting on yourself, everything else comes into play. Once again, it's home security. It's nothing revolutionary, but because he believed in himself, now the company's worth billions.
Literally the biggest thing is just going out there and doing it no matter what. Just, we've said it multiple times, but just literally doing the work. And that's one thing that really I've learned is just like, that's the best thing you can do is do the work no matter if you don't know too much about it. It's just getting out there because that's really where you learn. You're not going to learn being comfortable. You wouldn't have learn how to start a podcast that you wanted to start if you just read about a podcast all the time. Like you had to just go out there and do it. And like I wanted to learn how to create and get these things of grit, perseverance, self-belief, confidence all in me. So I had to do things that require that. And it sucked. It was hard, but in the end, the things pay off. Like a bad day or something like that where I was tired, like those days the days only last 24 hours. Like it's eventually going to end. It sucks for that long, but it's only going to suck for that long. Like once you get through it, the amount of confidence and belief that you have in yourself totally outweighs the negative stuff that you had in that moment. You're like, oh wow, why was I thinking that? Like that's crazy. And you're just like, it's like such like a serotonin boost pretty much. Right. You're like, oh, this is awesome. Like I have belief in myself. This is great.
And so let me ask you this, Chase. You just finished 75 hard, and It's obviously a tough challenge. So many people, maybe you know the statistic, but so many people who start it don't actually finish it. Do you know off the top of your head what it is?
He says 99% of people who start it won't finish.
Okay, so 99% of people, but you're one of the finishers.
Yeah.
What was one of the hardest moments that happened during your journey? And how, I guess not only the hardest, but how'd you overcome it?
As simple as this might sound, I would literally say, like, the reading part, sometimes it was hard, but I enjoyed doing that, and I found that it was a stress reliever, anxiety reliever. But as simple as, like, taking a progress picture every single day, that part was easily the hardest part. I was like, because it's the simplest thing where you're like, oh, I got the workout done, but, like, if you don't take it right in the morning, there would be times where I'm, like, laying in bed at night, and I close my eyes, and I'm, like, thinking of every single thing. I'm like, okay, I got this done, I got this done, I got this done. And I'm like, wait, did I take my progress picture? Go on my phone. And like, I'm about to fall asleep, and I realized that I didn't take it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would have failed if it wasn't for that. And like, doing those little things, I was like, wow, like, that's such a difference maker. Like, but easily the picture was by far the hardest, which is weird. Some people, it's the water, it's the workout. But I was already kind of used to working out twice a day. But also one thing that was like very hard was just like having the workouts 3 to 4 hours separated. Like, that's one thing people don't know. You can't do back-to-back workouts. So doing the workouts 3 to 4 hours separated, sometimes I would have a late day and I would get my workout done later. And I have to wait super long, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, this sucks. Like, I have to do this, and it's late. I don't want to do this. I could just get it done right now. But like, that's not what the plan says. I have to stick to that. And so for my last 2 days of 75 hard, which I think was easily the hardest thing overall. Yeah, so David Goggins has a challenge. It's called 4x4x48. And you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And I was listening to Andy podcast one day, and there was a guy that he had on that finished 75 hard. And he did that for his last 2 days. And that really stuck out to me. I was like, wow, like, you didn't have to do that. Like, you already did something hard.
It's the extra mile.
Yeah, it's like the extra mile, the go one more mindset towards things. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I respect that guy for it. And then I was looking more into the challenge. And usually this is so crazy. Usually when the challenge happens, it's like March 3rd or March 4th or something like that. And I was like, oh, I wonder if he's doing it on that date again this year. And those happened to be my days where they were my last 2 days of 75 hard. So March 3rd and March 4th were my last 2 days. So I was like, okay, in my mind, I had the split second thought of like, I have to do this then. And like, I turned it off. I was like, no, I don't want to do this. But then I was like eating up inside. I was like, okay, like it's there for me. I have to do it. It's all like lands on my last 2 days. Like, I have to. And so I ended up doing it. And to get background, I don't run at all. I've never run. I've had 2 knee surgeries on my right knee before. So like, I'm not a runner at all. I probably like horrible running, but I stuck out and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And I had very little planning going into it. I was just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try it out. And I did it. And that was by far the hardest thing I've ever done physically. But like, without doing 75 hard, I could tell you 1,000,000%, I would have never been able to do that. I would have never had the confidence and belief in myself to even start or have the thought of like, oh, I'm going to do 4x4x48. I've never run before. I don't run, but I knew that I built that confidence and that belief in myself in a sense of pride, which not like the bad sense of pride that most people get. It's like a pride built on like gratitude of like, wow, like I went through this. I was able to do this. This is awesome. And it's like a good pride. And I was like, wow, like I could do this. I could set my mind to anything because I just finished these last 75 days. And I was like, I wonder what else I could do. So like when I was on those runs, like a lot of them, like sometimes I didn't wear headphones and I was just like thinking, and I was like thinking of other things. I was like, I feel like I could like go a couple more miles extra. And I ended up going 4 more extra, just like built on like a mile extra each time on some days. And like, it really like doing that, I was like amazed at the end of it. I was like, this is crazy. Like, I can't believe I did this. This is like by far the hardest physical challenge and mentally that I ever did. I set a record, I think like 7 naps in a day on my second day. So it was for sure crazy. And just 75 hard gave me that belief in myself that I earned personally by just doing those daily things to just win the day and just be successful in that sense.
I want to point out, you didn't have to go those extra, what was the total, 52 miles?
Yeah.
My math is right?
It would, 52.
Because you did the 4x4
Yeah.
by 48, and then you added 4
Yeah.
miles, right? So 52. You didn't have to go and do that. You could have stuck to your regular workouts. You could have stuck and finished out strong. And this is already after you've been doing something that 99% of people fail.
Yeah.
You didn't have to, but you wanted to. And, you had I love that you pointed this out as well. You heard somebody say that they did it. You hurry and turn it off. You're like, nope, I can't do that. Nope, not me. But then it starts nagging at you. You start thinking about it over and over and over again. And I just want to say, congrats to you, man. And also, for everyone who's listening, Chase, he took the step to go the extra mile. And maybe your physical goals aren't what really matter to you at this moment in time. Maybe it's not like trying to progress yourself in some crazy area. But think about what you are trying to improve on. Maybe it's a relationship with a loved one. Maybe it's a business you're working on. Maybe it's finding God. Whatever you're kind of taking your leap of faith towards, trying to work towards. Think about where you can go that extra, in your case, 52 miles, right? But think about in your case, for the audience who's listening today, where can you guys go the extra mile? It's something that never needs to get done. That's why the phrase is there. It's the extra mile. You don't need to go and do it. But the amount of pride that you felt in that moment, it's insurmountable. Now you have the confidence to literally take on whatever you want. Mm-hmm. And there's going to be days that are tough again. Yeah. There's going to be days where you probably go less than the extra mile. You don't even hit your goal, but you can always look back on that time where you exceeded it and think, I was able to do it. So Chase, before we close out, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would just say one last thing on doing 75 hard. I recommend every single one of you guys to start today or tomorrow. Just go out there and do it. It will change. Just for 75 days, you will have a lifetime of lessons that will change your perspective on things, your outlook on how you view things, the confidence that you have, the grit that you have built, and that you have earned. Let me say earned, because all those things you have to earn. And those things don't just come and they stay with you. You have to practice them every single day. I could easily lose my confidence, lose my discipline if I don't do the things that I learned in 75 hard and still have implemented them into my life. So just once you even finish the program, and just even if you don't start, just do the little things. Create a list of 5 things that you need to get done every single day. It's something that Andy puts a big thing on. It's just winning the day. Because if you win enough days throughout the week, you won the day. You won the week. If you win enough weeks out of the month, you won the month. And that's how you end up winning life. If you win enough years in your life, you've had a successful life, you've won. So just start and just do the little things. Those matter so much. They make the difference. And I would just say that you have to constantly build those things every single day. So don't think that you just get them one time and then it's done with, because this is just a start. And after completing all this, I would have thought that I would be like, oh, this is awesome. I'm done with this. But it's only the start for me to
tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, the tip of the iceberg to just start new things and uncover new challenges that I want to overcome in my life. And I know there's going to be plenty more that I don't know about that's going to happen to me. And I know that with 75 hard, I could deal with those challenges and still stick to my promises that I made to myself because of that discipline. And discipline, I think, is one of the most important things.
Well, thank you, Chase, for joining us. Guys, once again, this was part 2 of the series. If for some reason you got through the episode and you hadn't heard part 1, go give that a listen now. But with that all being said, just remember, it'll all be okay. Just take a step back and keep finding little areas of improvement that you can make inside of your life and start them today.